Batman is bit in the neck by a dog. He and Gordon found it in a ditch, left here by the Joker. It seems like the villain got tired of these dogs and abandoned them here, and when one got hungry, it killed the others. Or maybe that was just the joke. Ace is high. They wanted to euthanize a dog that broken and traumatized, but Pennyworth donated enough money that the now Christian Thomas and Martha Wayne Humane Society was more than willing to look the other way. The next day, Bruce Wayne is troubled to see the dog in his home. He's far from pleased as he stares the animal down. Over the next few months, Alfred trains the dog while Bruce continues his never-ending crusade against crime. The dog is aggressive and constantly fights against Alfred, and Bruce thinks the animal is a lost cause. Batman says that Alfred will never understand. Some wounds don't heal. Undeterred, Alfred orders the dog to sit, and it obeys. The next week, Batman stumbles into the cave injured. The dog, who they've named Ace, rushes to his side, worried, and Batman reassures it that he's okay. Later, on Christmas Day, Bruce gives Ace a mask of his own, figuring it might be a fun gag for Halloween. Besides, Ace makes for a great bat hound. Bruce can't help but notice he didn't get a gift from Alfred. It's okay, as Wayne has everything he could possibly want, but Alfred is mildly frustrated with this. He says he was a bit busy with the dog to get him a gift. As he goes to get Bruce breakfast, he can't help but be a little amused. The world's greatest detective couldn't see the gift right in front of him. 8.5 million people live in this city, and that doesn't even count commuters, tourists, and all sorts of other visitors. On average, the city gets 5.5 emergency calls per second. It's never quiet. There are no silent nights. Advanced programs within the Bat computer process these 911 calls and screen them for meaningful activity, filtering out content to constantly update Batman on crises as they emerge across the city. It's a monumental task, but someone has to do it. Batman spots an unusual gathering at Champion Square. Neutral territory to the gangs, this is one of the few spots in the city that maintains a natural balance of the peace. But today, a group is engaging in some strange acrobatics. With nobody having recently escaped from Arkham or Blackgate, and all the other usual suspects currently accounted for, Batman isn't sure what to make of this. Then, the strangest thing happens. The system goes quiet. Batman checks in with Alfred and he confirms it's all working. There's just nothing coming in. Perhaps it is just a moment of grace. A few minutes of peace. The acrobats finish their performance, refusing any money from a cheering crowd, as it was just a public display. Batman smiles at the sight, and the moment ends. A call comes in about some gunfire, and the Dark Knight heads out. Up on a housetop, Harley Quinn attempts to break into GCPD headquarters. Ever vigilant, Batman leaps in and grabs her. Forcing her into the Batmobile, Harley insists that she meant no harm. She was just bringing candy and cookies to the cops in an attempt to make amends. Batman throws a pudding with the Joker's face on it out the window, and isn't exactly convinced by her words. Harley says that was just in case she ran into her ex, and, explosives aside, she really did only have good intentions. She points out that things have changed. People look up to her now. Batman says he's going to finish up on his patrol and drop her off at city limits. Harley decides to pass the time singing Christmas carols, much to Batman's annoyance. However, something strange happens during the patrol. The city is quiet. The citizens stand up to muggers and look out for each other. Batman finds he never even has to leave the car. He drops Harley off and she is frustrated, assuming he's leaving her out alone in the cold with nowhere to go. But she realizes he actually just drove her home to Coney Island. Harley meets up with her friends and they agree to go caroling together. At Cherry Hill, a billionaire named Barry O'Neill has come to the city's winter town, a special event celebrated every year. The man has been helping people since before Bruce was even born. Wayne's mother always looked up to him, so Bruce is honored to introduce him at this year's event. However, the festivities are interrupted by Minister Blizzard. This strange villain attacks the ceremony, so Bruce rushes off to get his gear. In one blow, Batman is able to knock the villain out. O'Neill is relieved but saddened as he wanted Wintertown to be the perfect event for the children of Gotham. That night, Bruce spends some time alone. Duke approaches his mentor and asks what he is thinking about, and Bruce explains how, no matter how much he fights, no matter how many villains he thwarts, sooner or later, good people like O'Neill die. The elderly philanthropist is nearly 100 years old. In some way, somehow, his time will be up. For even the best of us, something comes for us all. And that something is the Stag. On Christmas Eve, Batman detects a whiff of fear gas in the air. It's not strong enough to drive the city into chaos, but it is giving everyone a mild panic attack. Putting on a gas mask, Batman knows this is one of two things, either a test by Scarecrow or a distraction. In Arkham, a woman begins giving gifts to some of her fellow inmates. She's going to be leaving soon. Her name is Haunter. With a small DNA sample, she can kill anyone. And she has bad news for one of the Arkham guards. He left some hair on her bed. In the cold, Haunter is able to make her way out of Arkham and meet up with her friend, the Scarecrow. However, the reunion is short-lived when Batman bursts into the scene. Haunter has been preparing this for years, and Batman collapses, but it's all a ruse. Batman is very careful to protect his own DNA, and these two aren't the only one who can work with samples. Now, he gives them two options and asks them to consider carefully. First, they can pay a visit back to Arkham, or second, Batman can leave them here, infected by his nerve toxin, made from Scarecrow's own fear toxin, and they can freeze to death. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my recap and review of Batman Annual number 1. Now this was a fun request to get through Patreon. I wasn't really sure what to expect out of this year's Batman Annual, and I didn't look at the comic much beforehand. So I was really pleased to have a polished anthology issue on my hands, featuring some of the best and brightest talents in the world of Batman. First up was Good Boy, script by Tom King, pencils and ink by David Finch. This one was excellent. I always have a weakness for dogs, so naturally I'm going to like this story, and Finch's art is always a treat. He does a good job at conveying certain nuances in this story, and his art sells it nicely. I really like the sentiment behind it and the ending. The idea of Alfred getting and training this dog as a gift, and that gift going unnoticed, was a cute little detail, and the story was fun on the whole. Ace the Bat Hound, for those who didn't know, used to be a real thing in Batman, so it's cool seeing a modern take on an old canine character. Next up was my favorite story, Silent Night, with Scott Snyder writing and art by Declan Shalvey. We've been seeing a lot of Declan lately, and he's got a great style to him. The story is very simple but effective. It's a serene moment with a hopeful little message and a nice feeling to it. On balance, I think it was a great piece, and like I said, it stands out as my personal preference. The Harley Quinn story was cool too, written by Paul Dini and with Neil Adams handling pencils, ink, and colors. This was a great one. There's something really special about this, as having Paul Dini, a man that had a hand in creating Harley Quinn, come back and celebrate this character and the recent changes going on with her. It's neat seeing that she's inspired people to be heroic, and Batman seemed to recognize it too. I really like the touching little detail of him driving her home rather than throwing her out of the city or whatever he was planning. Neil Adams has some solid art, and though Batman has a couple of goofy facial expressions, it's just fun seeing him in an old costume paired off with the modern Harley Quinn. And that really says all that needs to be said about this one. The next story, Stag by Steve Orlando and with art by Riley Rossmo, wasn't too bad either. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that the first 3 of these stories are sentimental and fun Batman works, while the rest reads more like a preview of future content, but this had enough sincere moments and some solid art, and it still sold me on the thing as a whole, so yeah, I like this too. And then we reached the last story, the Insecurity Diversion. New to DC writer Scott Bryan Wilson wrote this, and Bilquis Evely did pencils and ink. This one, from what I understand, has been least receptive critically, and I get it. It's alright, it's not terrible, but it's not exactly great either. I like the new villain Haunter and can see how she could be entertaining, but her and Scarecrow don't really do much in this story, and little else seems to be going on here other than introducing Haunter. It wasn't bad, and in reading it through a second time, I did like it a little more than I did the first. I was entertained by it, so I don't want to write it off entirely. I'm glad I read it and would like to see more of this new villain. So there you have it, 5 stories, and though I liked the first 3 more than the last 2, I pretty much enjoyed all of them. This gets a solid recommendation. It's a warm and fuzzy comic full of lovely little feelings and sentiment. A nice series of Christmas stories that I'm really glad I got the chance to review. It also leaves me happy that Batman is in the hands of so much creative talent at the moment. These comics have been great since Rebirth, and this issue, in my opinion, was no exception. Thanks to the patron that requested this, as he really made my day. You should check this out for yourself, or hell, if you know somebody who's a Batman fan, this would make a great addition to any gift in the coming holiday season. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. My favorite story was Silent Night, but what was yours? Also, if you like our channel, consider supporting us at patreon.com/comicisland. Patrons get exclusive rewards, have a say in the content we make, and the comics we review. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.